Hello people, we're here with the second battle between Be'lakor and Lunacy, the round of 64 of the World Championship. Be'lakor won the first battle. You maybe have just watched that video, if not, then you know. And he's now playing the Beastman into the greenskins. So let's see, we're on Long Will here. And this is, a pretty wide formation of Beastmen with a lot of Ungo Raiders. Generally, this is the sort of front line you will see. These Ungo Spearmen herd with shields, just the most cost-effective infantry, like most basic spears are for their faction. And Ungo Raiders able to put out quite a bit of damage for their cost, and they'll also be firing back on these Goblin Wolf Riders and Spider Rider Archers, which are one of the few missile cav in the game that are actually outranged by Ungo Raiders. Against something like Glade Guards, the Ungo Raiders would actually be outranged. So apart from that, he's relying on some big units and some good mobility. The Vile Tide, yes, and the Brace Scream, actually both spells intended to clear infantry, which Beastmen might otherwise struggle with a little bit. And Morgar the Shadowgave with his summons, the usual. Also 2 Centaurs with throwing axes to deal with an eventual Ragnarok Spider, which isn't uncommon in this matchup, and I would actually recommend it most of the time. But there is none here. Instead, Lunacy has opted for an army with a lot of missile cav. Spider Riders, basically the usual greenskin stuff. There's also big uns, not the savage ones, which you might expect in this matchup. Actually, there are some savage ones. So 7 big uns in total. And a Night Goblin, Mr. Grom the Paunch, and an Orc Shaman, so Brain Burster. And here we go, once even more melee attack. Generally, I would say, against Beastmen who don't have the highest melee defense, you don't really need that spell, but maybe he's expecting there will be some sort of blob fight and he really wants to win that, and then yeah, the Here We Go can definitely come in handy. But it seems Void Lols here is actually playing it a bit defensively right now. He knows that if he goes forward, he will be harassed by this missile cav, and he will have to reveal his hidden units, and he probably doesn't have the units that he needs to go and charge forward into 7 big uns. One thing I've noticed about Void Lols when watching his gameplay, and we've seen a lot of his gameplay lately because he's always making it far into tournaments or just outright winning them in a lot of cases even, is that getting the better of him in this sort of skirmish phase, sometimes also called the complaining phase of a battle, is really difficult. So Lunacy is trying to find the right targets, but Void Lols isn't really giving him the right targets, and with the Stalk on his archers is able to return fire as well. And these archers, they're not very useful if they've spent their ammo. You can also see that Void Lols is using Morgar to sort of draw their ammo, pushing his spears forward on this side, and he managed to get a catch of Forest Goblin Spider Riders on this side, so just a very difficult player to play against. If he sees an opportunity, he will pounce on it. With the early trades, I'd say favoring Void Lols a little bit, seems to be in control, but there's 7 big uns here. Yeah, that was a Brace Scream, didn't do too much, some damage on the big uns, but he resisted a lot of it. Maybe he didn't get the ideal hit, because that spell can actually do more. Yeah, you can see that even with all this skirmish cav, just now run back a little bit. There's actually the greenskins who are kind of getting kited. And I'm not sure if Lunacy should feel compelled to march forward here. Main Beastman force is repositioning over here. And 2 units sort of stacked together, and instantly there's a Vile Tide. That is so good, that is so much awareness, such quick reactions as well, and he throws another spell down. Again, didn't do much, but that spell, the Brace Scream, only costs 5 winds of magic, so it is kind of disposable. Yeah, Voidwalls is just drawing the ammo with his chariot. Lunacy should probably recognize that Voidwalls is just trying to waste his ammo. Turn off auto fire. Again with the dogs, they are catching some fire, but not too much. Those are shots you can justify, but again, a lot of the arrows missing. And yeah, this is the weakness of this 6 missile cav approach. A lot of people, they actually freak out over this greenskin missile cav, but honestly, if you deal with it in the correct way, it is very short ranged, the damage isn't overwhelming. You can actually counterplay it quite well, I would say. Okay, that was a very good brain burster on the Centigores. Which is not to say that this missile cav couldn't use like a small nerf, but you know, I often feel like people overestimate the missile cav quite a bit. Obviously, if you don't counterplay it properly, it's gonna do its job. Like, what do you expect? I think this is a good example of you know, a potential way of dealing with him, and he's not even using the strongest faction to do it. Faction with the most tools. Centigores on this side. Man, he's really put the beating on these biggins. You know, earlier I said that maybe Lunacy shouldn't feel compelled to attack more thoroughly. Voidwalls will probably try to deny the engagement for as long as possible as well. But looking at it now, it's just like he's slowly losing, right? He's losing his ammo, he's losing health on his biggins, he's just losing a lot of resources. Now the Spider Riders are taking a decent amount of damage here from the Butchers, and okay, he has managed to deal some damage back, but not that much. So I think maybe a more aggressive approach would have been nice. At least at this point, I would say, like, this doesn't seem to be working well. Switch to a more aggressive approach, because the position the biggins, yeah, the orcs want to be in, is that their biggins are as healthy as possible, just smashing away at everything. But instead he's like slowly losing them, and when he's out of ammo, and he will be soon, Void will really start the kiting game. Also recognizes that some units are not that supported. Okay, maybe the Chaos Pioneer were a little bit overzealous. Gonna lose about 50% of their health trying to cycle charge those biggins. I like what he's doing with the Minotaurs. He's lost one unit on them, but it's not too bad. They're regenerating. He's making use of that regen by sometimes going in and tapping them a little bit. Oh man, he routes another unit. And this is kind of reminding me of the Lizardman versus Greenskin match that Voidwalls played against A-Move in the last faction war, where A-Move seemed to try and outplay or want to outplay Voidwalls in the skirmish phase, and it just didn't work out. Ooh, did they manage to kill another Butcher? No, Butcher survived. Balance of power is still relatively even. These Warhounds could be getting killed. No, they're getting pulled away. By the way, these highlights under the units, if you have them permanently on like I do, guys, it's much easier to tell where the actual units are. Ah, and he comes in and breaks these Forest Goblin Spider Riders. No, Voidwalls is like, you remember when you were at elementary school, like this annoying kid on the playground who just runs around poking people. And if they try to retaliate, then he's already gone. Poke, 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 poke. Nothing you can do about it. Well, maybe he can do something about it. There's still a lot of healthy biggins here. In a pure melee brawl, this Greenskin army would win. Yeah, there's still so many Ungor Raiders. They still have so much ammo. Indigore's being used to charge again. Is that an overextension? Could be. How many are getting stuck? Quite a few. Rom is gonna snack on some Centigo booty. We like to see. Horse steak is on the menu. Wonder if he would eat the upper half or the lower half. Well, maybe it's best not to think about. Then, yeah, it's such a weird, slow sort of battle, but it is a good tactical approach for sure from Void Walls, because his win condition is basically shooting the big uns. And now that he's eliminated most of the greenskin mobility, he can do that and just stop them with his Ungor herd. They will get trashed, of course, but they're buying enough time for the Ungor herd to shoot into these Orc Biggins. And yeah, Orc Biggins, they trade really well in melee, but they're vulnerable to a lot of other things, especially just, you know, cheap arrows. It always strikes me as a little bit odd when, you know, people pretend this is such a... I mean, it is a really powerful unit, don't get me wrong, but when people pretend it's like a totally over-the-top unit, when it can get countered, like actually hard countered by just basic archers. No, keeping your archers online isn't always easy, but you actually don't need to get so many volleys in to really kill a lot of Savage Biggins. They basically have no protection. Yeah, some physical resistance, but it's actually less than 30 armor. Both Chaos Spawn summons are on the field. Lunacy is running away from them, that's a pretty good idea. No point in fighting those guys, but yeah, at this point, like, what can you really do? I'm seeing Ungor Raiders trying to catch Crom the Punch and then charging into Orc Savage Biggins. Like, that's not something I've ever seen. These are some brave Ungor, man. Like, you've done your job, now go and die. But you know, this unit, it's definitely done its value. Look at the kills. So once it's out of ammo, Voidlol's, ruthless as he is, just uses it as some sort of peasant mob unit. He's just using the walled up units for a bit, so we can, I guess, catch them with the Chaos Spawn before they run out. Yeah, look how little damage he's been putting on Grom. We have to check this now because we can't in the end screen. Grom has actually not regenerated that much, if you look at it. Which means that Voidlol's has kind of intentionally not been putting too much damage on him, because he knows he's just going to regenerate if you do that. Unless you can get the kill, you're actually giving him more value by letting him regenerate. Grom does ram into Morgr there. It's kind of looking like a tariff video right now. Except Morgr doesn't die. And yeah, that was just really clinical. I mean, one of the best Beastman play I've seen in a while. I gotta wonder if it would have worked out that way if Lunacy had played more aggressively. Because really the skirmish cav, if it fails to do too much damage, see, it's still got decent amounts of value, pretty good amounts of value, but I still feel like the skirmish phase went to Voidlol's pretty decisively. So if it fails to do that, you know, lure the enemy towards you, pick them apart, then what they can do is just screen your biggins so that your biggins are at least safe from, you know, cycle charges, Centigors coming in close to deal damage, and Ungor as well. Rashim definitely one of the heroes of that battle. Morgr barely broke a sweat. Yeah, that's 2-0 to Voidlols. See you in the next video, where we will see whether Lunacy claws back into this series or whether Voidlols takes the trio. See you there.